Welcome, everybody, back to Colorbar. Betsy Davis, Chief Marketing Officer of Sandy Alexander, joined as always by my cohort and my co-host, Kim Updike.
Hi, Betsy. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Always excited to be here. Very excited about our guest today.
Absolutely. Listen, I was thinking about it earlier that as Color Bar has grown and evolved, it feels like we've kind of landed on a few different pillars, if you will. Obviously, marketing is what we're passionate about, but lots of conversation around leadership, wellness, innovation, and all of those spaces. And so our guest today could not be more apropos for continuing those conversations. We're joined by Stephanie Glaser, who is the Chief Sales Officer for MGM Resorts. And I had the pleasure of meeting Stephanie and hearing her speak at an event, Women Leading Travel and Hospitality, that we've talked about a couple of times, about wellness and some new techniques, I guess, if you will, and new thoughts, ways of thinking about leadership and wellness that's happening at MGM that we're going to talk about today.
I'm excited for that. Just the whole holistic approach to, your culture and building people and brands. And so super excited.
Yeah. So we had Dr. Romy on talking about the busy brain cure. We've had another one of our guests talk about giving herself official time off and what that did for her and her business and herself personally. And so I kept talking about Stephanie on these color bars. And now I was thrilled to when she agreed to join us. So
Yeah.
Stephanie, welcome to Color.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Your whole opening gets me just excited to talk with you all today.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I'm going to talk about intention today because I know that that is something we all take. But actually, when I reached out to Stephanie to ask, that one morning I woke up and I'm like, what do I want my intention to be today? And I said, I want to be bold. And so I messaged her and I was like, this is my intention for today. So I'm going to be bold and just go for it and ask for you to join us. So, again, thrilled to have you here. So, Steph, if you can just kick off and just talk a little bit about yourself and your role at MGM and a little bit of that journey. And then that'll, I think, tie in really well to where we're going to take the rest of the conversation.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me today. As I mentioned, passionate topics to talk about. Yes, I have been with MGM Resorts. I just celebrated my 27th year, which I find that because a girl from outside of Massachusetts, when I moved to Las Vegas, my intention was to be here for 1 year. And like many people that come to Las Vegas, that changes over time. For me, honestly, it was the opportunities that I got with the company that every 4 or 5 years I was able to kind of shift my role, my responsibility. We have, of course, multiple resorts at a big company here within the city, and that was really what drew me to stay. Of course, now raising a family here, which is something I never thought I would do. I always thought I would end up back in Boston. I think I mentioned, when we met, I grew up as a very serious ballet dancer from a very young age. Um, and always thought that I would end up back in Boston one way or another, but this is home now. And yeah, I love what I do.
That's great. When I was listening to your story, I was saying to Kim earlier, kind of jumping to another topic we've talked a lot about on Color Bar, which is the next generation and young talent. And when I was reading your story and hearing your story, it resonated with me so much. I'm a girl from a town of 4,000 people in Oklahoma, and I've lived in Texas. I lived in Chicago. I actually went back to my home state about 4 years ago, which I never thought I was going to do. And if I did, I thought I was going to be 65, not 45 at the time. Um, but I personally, and I know Kim does too, get that question a lot from young women and the next generation of how did how did you do this? And what advice do you give to the young talent that are trying to become the next chief sales officer of an MGM Resorts? Do you get that question a lot? And if so, how do you address it?
I think that there's two ways that I address it. First of all, anything is possible. So dream big. And, if you have your heart set on something, know that it's possible. And I always tell young leaders and mentees that you can make it all happen. You don't have to have just one path and stay down it. And whether it's, being a mom, being a wife, being a leader, being, whatever that is, that anything really is possible. I think the other part though is be open to change. Like I've mentioned, never growing up did I think I would be in this role 27 years later. That was never even a part of who I thought I was. But yet through, like I mentioned earlier, the opportunity, the taps on the shoulders to take some risks, even though sometimes you don't feel like you're ready. I think that's the other message is be open to using your superpowers to get to wherever that leads you to. And it doesn't have to be down that narrow path that once envisioned. And that's really how I got here today. It wasn't a girl from a small town thinking I was going to end up as the chief sales officer in Las Vegas. I had never even been to Las Vegas. I was not hospitality, again, and that's sort of what led me to just taking those risks.
Yeah, I agree. I say similar things often is those little taps on the shoulder of we have this interesting opportunity, any interest in taking it? And words of advice that I've been given is come from a place of yes. Have that sense of courage and curiosity as well to take those opportunities. And there's no telling where it'll take you. Kim,
Well,
you've had similar instances.
yeah, I have, but I definitely think it's the tap on the shoulder and the curiosity that really kind of always has excited me the most. It's okay, like anything is possible and things change. So leave yourself open, show yourself a little grace, and remain curious, and have the intention to be bold every once in a while and step into that space because being uncomfortable is okay. Usually we learn in those spaces and try something new and you know get to the next stop on your journey wherever that stop may be, and your journey may go in a different direction that you never thought of.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would add, and it's a hot topic these days, and I don't want to say generationally, but taking the time, don't have expectations that you're going to move every 1 year, every 2 years, every 3 years. It's sometimes it takes time. And what you can't do is worry about the people around you that may be getting promoted, that may be taking other opportunities, that may think the grass is greener on the other side. It really needs to be about what works for you, investing the time, and your time will come sometimes when you least expect it if you're creating that brand and putting the work in.
Yeah, it is. I think it is so important to I use as most people trust your gut, but also just trust your person, like trust who you are and what feels right for you and yeah,
And your
continue to
personal brand. Like
yeah.
personal brand is probably more important now these days than it has ever been in the past, just with the marketplace and technology and how we all live. And so it's not just necessarily business brands, it's your brand. So you also need to take care of that and be mindful of your person and how you want to move forward. And I like the idea that, kind of take the guardrails off. Don't think that your next stop is in 12 days or 12 months. It may be in 6 years, but you put in your time and your space, and I think you eventually everybody gets to where they should be.
Yeah. So I mean, I saw you resonating with the personal brand message. Talk to us about the importance of that for you and for the employees that work alongside you.
Yeah, I talk a lot about it, both internally and externally, and when we talk about how do we lead young leaders coming up, my belief is your personal brand is everything you do. It is similar to a company brand, right? That one thing, that one time, that one it impacts you. So how you show up, how you speak, how you communicate, how you're respected and trusted, it is everything that sort of carries you. And as long as you're being authentic, and I used the word superhero earlier, or your
Mhm.
superpowers, that is again what creates your brand. Know what you're good at and know where your opportunities are. And don't flaunt your opportunities just to get somewhere. Just be yourself and use those personal superpowers. No, I'm big on personal branding. I think about it in everything that I do. I think it's also important that we are all humans first. We all have personal lives, and your personal brand doesn't have to be 100% professional all the time. And that's really where I have, I've taken some risk. I don't, I don't want to say risk on social media, but I want people to know that, outside of this crazy job and the hours that we put in, we all lead normal lives and deal with the stuff and the family stuff and the friends and the guilt and all that personal stuff that carries it. I think that's what makes it allowable and okay for everyone to know, okay, I'm going through something similar, but yet she's doing it, I can do it. And as cliche as it sounds that we all say it, it helps us all to talk about it, that we're humans first and we can be relatable to what someone else is going through and always be thinking about that.
I love that. One of our intentions with Color Bar was to show the personality behind our brand of Sandy Alexander, and that there are people, and we're all, to your point, we're all going through the same things. And as we've had these conversations, just sharing parts of our lives that you wouldn't know just by getting an email from me or seeing my LinkedIn page or doing something. And we really wanted to give ourselves a personality, and have these real conversations. So I love that. I love that you've said that.
Yeah, no, it's a great conversation to have, and I love the personal brand conversation. It's just very relevant and more meaningful now, like I said, than ever. And I think when you're talking about, younger talent and bringing them up in this space and how do I get that role and what does it look like? I think the more open, to your point, we all are human. So it's I joke around. I'm like, nope, it's the good, the bad, the ugly, the messy, the funny. You got to take all of it, and and just kind of go with and plot your own journey.
Yeah. So your personal brand came through greatly when you were on stage speaking. So I'm ready to jump to that conversation about the sabbatical and what you guys are implementing in MGM and how impactful that has been. Can you share parts of that story with us and part of the mentality and thought process of implementing this at MGM and what that's been for the business?
Yeah. So, thank you for letting me talk about it. We are an entertainment, hospitality, gaming company that runs a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week business, entertaining people and creating memories and experiences. And it doesn't necessarily matter if you're a front desk agent or a bellman or a chief marketing officer, right? This is the industry that we're in, and we also are a large company out of tenured people like me that have been with the organization for a very long time. And so the sabbatical program, which is called the Intermission, was created for really two reasons. One is to allow tenured leaders to just take a pause and a break. We know how hard we work. Up 300, I don't want to say 365 days because we're working on that, but how hard we work all the time. So really a moment in time where you can take a break and take an educational class, train for a marathon, go on vacation, reorganize your house, whatever it is, and really just step away and know what that feels like. And for me, I hadn't really done that at the time in 25 years, right? It was always of creating and building that personal brand, making sure that I was focused on whatever, professional role that I was in. And even on maternity leave, right? I mean, there were places in my life that I probably didn't break away as much as I should have. And what the sabbatical allowed you to do is to take that moment back. And I'll talk about mine, in a moment, but take a moment back and what is important. But more importantly, the sabbatical program also creates career development and progression for employees because every leader in the company has to have those individuals that they are grooming for further development. So when you go on sabbatical, the person or people that step into your role basically take those responsibilities on just as you would if it was you doing them. Which gives opportunity on both sides to be able to really say, I did Stephanie Glanzer's job for 6 weeks. I am ready for it, which we should all want those people, by the way, that are ready to take our roles. And more importantly, it shows where there may be opportunity in some of areas that they need to work on. So really a twofold benefit and impact of what the program is for MGM Resorts.
I would think also in preparation for taking that, it's also making you take a step back about what your day-to-day roles are from a training perspective, but also, you know, outlining that. Like, I think about this all the time. It's like, how would I train somebody to do my job, and to have to take a step back and pause and really think through that and be mindful about how you're presenting that to somebody to make sure that they're as successful as they can be. Talk to me about that, what that was like for you preparing for 6 weeks away.
Yeah, it's look, my personality, I've always gotten on my mid-year and end of years reviews that I have to get better about delegation. My team would say that. I know that it's something I'm a work in progress. And to have the fact where on a sabbatical, you have no choice. You're delegating all of it, right? And you're also showing your team that you trust that they're going to handle things at a level as your brand would carry it to do. And we were, and I think I may have shared this, but we were leaving for we were going out of town for my sabbatical and we were at the airport. And I got on my phone and my husband said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I've got one last email to send and I'm just going to send it and then we're off." And he said, "You haven't made it 24 hours and you're going to show your team that you're emailing them." And I sort of looked at him and I paused and I pressed delete on the draft and I never took my phone out from that point on. And again, it was the trust in, I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing team and who I delegated things to, and we've worked together for a long time. But that was the let go moment. And you are 100% correct that when I came back, you sort of realize, boy, life can go on without me being involved in every single thing 7 days a week. And I know that I can. So it'll actually allowed me to come back intentionally being able to know what I had to be involved in and what I didn't and where I wanted to spend my time.
And it'd be interesting too from your team's perspective, right? Because they all stepped in and it was an opportunity and a growth opportunity, I would think, as well, while you were gone. And if you're not checking email or you didn't send the last email and you're like, "You guys got this, run with it. You know me, you know our brand, take it and run with it. Like I have all the confidence in you." And I would think that that really probably moved the whole team forward, exponentially in those 6 weeks just by having them work together and rely on each other.
Yeah, you're correct. It also allowed, we had this. I had this thing where on Thursday nights because of the time change, right? That would be like my once a week anything urgent that they knew they could. Oh, if there was something important or they needed a decision or, whatever it was. And all 6 weeks, there was nothing there on those Thursday nights for them when they would wake up, Friday mornings. And it showed that they could do it. And, yeah, no, and it allowed me to prioritize. And the point of it, right, to come back and for me to say, okay, I'm going to change this, this, and this about how I'm doing things for myself today so that I don't get to this, and not that I was burnt out, that it's not that I was burnt out, it was that I hadn't taken a reset in my whole career to really step back and say, what am I going to prioritize? What am I going to focus on? How am I going to stop feeling guilty about not going to the gym or spending more time with my kids, like those types of things. And so I use the word life changing because for me it is. And, it's been 2 years exactly. And I will say that I sometimes have to go back to that to say, wait a minute, what did I promise to myself? And why am I letting this get to me? And why am I letting this bother me when I said when I got back I wouldn't any longer? Because it's not stressing anyone else out but myself.
Are you finding that you're giving yourself, even if it's just a 3-day sabbatical, like, are you finding yourself being better at that?
I have gotten 100% better. Yes, the answer is yes. And I think it goes back to realizing that, I don't want to say that life goes on if you're not there, but the email at 11 o'clock at night, there's really no need for it because it will be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that sort of goes back to my whole other, and I think you heard me say this, but giving people some grace in life right now.
Mhm.
Have such high expectations on, bad enough on ourselves, but on each other And in our world, that there are expectations that we're available 24 hours a day or 7 days a week. And I do worry about the meetings and events industry because we really have, I think they compare event planners to like the number 4 or 5 most stressful job, and what expectations we put on ourselves of last minute planning and last minute changes, and, our events teams that are doing these things. So giving someone some grace of saying, you know what, they didn't respond within 24 hours. Let's give them another day. They could have something going on. Now, again, I get it if it's urgent or important, but if we just lived in this world where we didn't have this frustration or negative, again, assumptions about situations or people, I think you heard these 7 sabbatical takeaways. That's one of them, that, you go into a situation with this, like, why didn't they respond? Or instead, gosh, they must have really been busy yesterday. Let's give them another day.
Mhm. So, what would be you had your 7, share a couple of others with us.
My goodness gracious. This one, because they're, the part about organization in life, and
Mm.
yeah, I am a clean, organized person more than others, but that doesn't mean that, my makeup drawer is always perfect or the closets or my desk. But it really is true. And I'm trying to teach my 12-year-old son this now. Like, more organized or feeling good about how your room looks, about how your desk looks, when you walk into something, how you look, it really does help that productivity, that motivation, that sort of mental reset, rather than when you're in your purse and it's a mess and you're digging for that one thing and it adds that extra 60 seconds, like if it's clean and organized. So for me, that's a really big one. I think I shared the story that I took the past few days of my sabbatical actually at home, just doing stuff like that, organizing the makeup drawer, the closet, all of that stuff. And when you walk into a closet that's like clean, organized, beautiful by color, does it not make those mornings just so much better?
Like, it's a big ta-da!
So, maybe you subconsciously inspired me, but not long after the trip to Atlanta, I remember telling everybody, I'm like, "I'm going away to my house solo. No one's invited, no one's coming, and I'm spending 2 days just doing life around
Yeah.
the house." And to your point, like, I weeded the flower bed, I power washed the back deck, like, I was doing just these little but I felt so cleansed and so focused and productive after those 2 days of just having some Betsy time. It was really it sat with me, and I'm gonna try to be better about doing those moments for myself more often.
Well, it is kind of liberating, right? It's kind of freeing. You don't like it's not taking up space in your brain, which sounds crazy. Like, why is my closet taking up space in my brain? But when you are organized and you do feel good about your space, the space that you're in, and I mean, it changes your whole outlook. I mean, you just the way you present yourself, and even when you come home, it's like you can really kind of relax and that's, and have that be part of your routine as opposed to having it be,
A point of
a
anxiety
point of
instead.
anxiety. Right, like, there's enough points of anxiety, we're trying to minimize them.
Yes.
I will say another big one for me, and I mentioned it earlier, is, and it kind of all goes back to feeling good, right, about yourself and this positivity. 2 years, one of my 7 that I came back with 2 years ago was, go into every situation sort of without this assumption of, intention of like, why was I left off of that meeting? Or why didn't they include me on this email? That, and I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan, and so the "Let Them" theory sort of was relatable at the time of the things that I can't control. No one was stressing out about it at 3 a.m. other than me, so why am I letting it bother me if I can't control it? Those 2 sort of intertwine on what makes you, what you can control, your feelings about how you go into a situation, an interaction, a business conversation, an employee conversation, but to go in with positive intention and really only get upset over the things that you have control over.
if you whoever's listening, if you haven't read the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, you must. It's liberating to say the least. And again, talking about giving yourself a little grace, I feel like that also is allowing yourself a little grace in the people around us. Um, we've talked about intention a couple of times on here, but and Dr. Romy brought it up about when she wakes up, she's got her 3 things and not picking up your phone. And are there things that you find yourself trying to intentionally do or things that have just become a daily practice that help you survive your 12 and 14-hour days that you have at times?
So, first of all, how incredible is Dr. Romy? I think
I mean, I can't.
through connections and mutual acquaintances and an event we were both at many years ago, she brought many things to me and my both personal and professional life, quite frankly, that I will never forget. Wednesday mornings, my team still does deep breaths because she talked about, how we start our day as a team in unison, and that's all for her. Um, I will say that I'm a work in progress. There are so many things that she again, science-based fact that we should all be doing that every day I'm like, okay, got to do it, got to put the phone away. I know, but so I'm working on it. But to answer
Say,
your question, a little bit on, the email that at 11 o'clock at night that I mentioned to you earlier, that didn't help me not only because the hours that I was working, but again, staring at a computer screen right before I went to bed. So there are kind of little things that I try to do now on a regular basis just for me. Taking time in the morning to not jump right into things. I give a lot of credit. Actually, my husband started about, I guess, in the last couple of years, going outside and just drinking his coffee, like right when he wakes up and just sitting and being outside and enjoying it. And on days that I have that, that's sort of because of her recommendation or you should start your day of just taking that time to be. So yes, little pieces. I wish I'm working on it. All of Dr. Romy's great advice.
well, she's also talked about, she's like, I am ready to get with Stephanie and figure out how we can take the MGM intermission, program, if you will, and how do we evangelize that to other corporations? And, she actually, I'll ask this question of you. She was like, I wonder if they've done any studies or surveys internally to really understand how this is positively impacting the organization. Do you, are there any findings that you guys have from this?
I think, high level, yes, there are findings. Being that it is, and I've lost all track of time. I think 3 years. It's 3 years old, right? And when you build the quantity, the pool that is eligible 'cause is directors and above. And obviously everyone doesn't all go out. So there are people that, of course, are taking their sabbatical for the first time, this year. Uh, that what I can tell you is two things are very clear the benefit of it on the loyalty to the company because again we know we all love the company we work for but when you have a benefit that you're working towards at 5 years at 10 years at 15 years how it continuously goes going up so that loyalty and that benefit of the impact the other thing is there have been a small percentage that, you know what, maybe you're going to take the sabbatical and say, I don't have the passion, the joy, the feeling that I once had, and maybe I need to consider shifting into a different role or doing something else. And thankfully, that has just been a small percentage, but I think that that's okay too. And
Mhm.
from a company standpoint, to allow that time for someone to realize that they're as a leader, their heart isn't in it is another benefit. So I did promise Dr. Romy and I am going to do it to follow up on statistically what the numbers have meant for us so that we can share that. So I do think it's pretty incredible as a leader, from a leadership standpoint. We have many senior leaders that have shown and given the acceptance to take theirs as well, actually, including at the time our CEO.
That's amazing.
Mm,
That really is. Love that.
yep. Um, so obviously MGM is all about the guest experience.
Mhm.
And obviously wellness and this holistic approach is important to you and it feels like the organization as well. Do you try to incorporate that? Is that a pillar of what you all are trying to um let your guests experience when they come into one of your properties? What does that look like?
It's in the meetings and event space, it's something that we actually, then I'll talk about the guest itself. But in the meetings and event space, it's something that we started a couple years ago. Actually, a one of our GSO series was all about wellness and well-being 2 years ago. So if you came to an event within MGM Resorts, instead of just having a glass of wine, you would do a sound bath, you would take a yoga class, you would do puppy yoga, whatever that was. Again, incorporating as a brand that well-being and wellness. We work with an incredible company called Fit City, that puts on activities and wellness, well-being events for groups and events. So I think first of all, just showing that it's a part of who we are in our culture and our DNA. The other part is how we execute events, understanding with our meeting planners that people come to an event, a convention, a meeting with more intention than they did prior to 2020, right? We've all discovered our time away from home means more, you want more ROI. And being in Las Vegas for the majority of our properties, what we didn't want was someone going, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to Vegas. I'm gonna come home more tired than I was. I'm gonna stay out until 3 AM. I'm gonna eat, horrible break food." And for us, it was about how do we create experiences for our meeting planners that for their attendees, let's offer yoga on the beach at Mandalay Bay before a general session. Let's offer menus that have healthy snacks and story behind them of what they're doing from the sustainability side of things. Let's make people feel good. So we have done are trying to really make sure that we're telling that story, who we are as a company, through the experiential planning of events so that attendees get to experience it when they come. Things like, going to the gym or allowing sessions don't have to go from 8 to 5 these days. People aren't getting that ROI of a 4 hour general session, right? They need to reset their brains. They need time for networking. They need time to take a Zoom call or to get caught up on email more so again than they did 5 years ago. So just being a part of that planning and really, again, talking about those things as a part of the experience.
One of my questions for you was what do people in the hospitality and events and meeting spaces, what do you need to be leaning into if you were gonna, you know, suggest to other leaders in this space? And one of the I think you just answered one of them, which is how do we find a way for these moments to just feel healthier and to feel more balanced? Because I know the many that we all have attended, you do come home just feeling more drained. There's an excitement behind it, but to be able to feel elevated from some event like that.
Well, and it's a very holistic approach, which I think kind of differentiates MGM probably from a lot of other people in this space. Just kind of doing a mind, body, soul uh, approach to it, where, yes, there is the general session and there is the breakout. But, a lot of times your best ideas don't come in that space. It
Mhm.
comes on your way to that space. By the way, if you have puppy yoga, I'm coming out. Um, um, but I just think that's a differentiating factor and a very um, leading, um, thought-provoking leading way of changing how that space looks and how people and that you want to be there, right? You want to have a meeting there because it is about the entire holistic well-being, not just the business part of it, but you the your
The you part of
the
it.
you part of it, yeah.
You just said something that I think is important, and again, doesn't matter if it is even a guest stay, right? If are you traveling with your family? Are you there for an event? But every type of event is different and should have a different reason, an ROI. What is the reason for a convention, a meeting, a gathering, a trip? And then to be able to design that experience around what the ROI is. What does an organization or a company want to get out of it? What does a family of four coming to Las Vegas want to feel and get out of it? So the planning of what goes into it, that should be the intention. So if you're having a sales kickoff, if you're having a training session, if you're having a customer event, those are three very different events that again, as an industry, we're progressing in. but it shouldn't be the opening general session, the 4 breakouts, the lunch from 12 to 1, then you go back into breakouts and then a general session, right? If you want your people to spend time with your customers, how are you allowing that to happen not just at the opening reception or the closing event? How are you giving activities and experiences for people to walk away going, I cannot miss that event next year because I met so many people. I made money right off of it, whatever it is, but to truly be intentional on what is the ROI of the purpose of the trip. And then allow, the itinerary, the agenda to go from there.
We y You've talked about, the experiences a lot, and a big topic on Color Bar has been, regardless of industry, everybody is trying to create these more immersive environments and these more experiential environments and to make them feel more personalized. How does that resonate with what you're doing in the event and conference space?
Yeah, I would even add within the transient and consumer space, by the way. And look, I'm very, of course, biased on Las Vegas as a city. There is no place in the world that, the proposition of what you get within a very confined radius from the variety of, value to luxury, the experiences, restaurant shows, shopping all under one roof. And to your point, Vegas is not the gaming, non-gaming has shifted, right? That people come to Las Vegas for non-gaming and for all of it that I just said. So as a company for us, continuously coming up with experiences that, I'm going to use swingers as an example. If you're not familiar with swingers, it may not be what you're thinking. We adult golf, indoor miniature golf experience. And we just opened it last December at Mandalay Bay. So if you've been to the one, they started in London, they have one in New York, they have others. But again, when you are talking about creating an event that we just said from a meeting or convention, and to be able to say to either customers or your team, let's walk for 6 minutes and be inside right by the convention space and be inside this spectacular experiential miniature golf where we can eat, drink, have fun, network, host a team building event, talk about leadership. It's those kinds of things that people again are like, wow, I just made a connection with somebody, with a person. I had fun doing it. I got ROI. I still sat in my meeting, that I needed to attend. So swingers is just one example of things that we're trying to create. We just opened the Bob Marley experience at Mandalay Bay also actually, which you think about is not just a traditional show. It's an experiential show where you move rooms about the life of Bob Marley. Now, again, they're all one roof that you walk past from your guest rooms into the convention space. So, how you create experiences for both a consumer and an event, I think, is really how we're trying to forward think on what ROI and be different and unique.
It's great. Well, we won't wanna take much more of your time, but, um, again, as a leader that you can tell just has a real passion for wellness and for the next generation and for all the things that you're doing, what words of advice or what would be, 2 or 3 things that you would say to other leaders, like even Kim and myself, to encourage us to do better by our teams and our organizations?
I think as leaders, we have to show we live it, not just talk about it. And you see that often. And look, again, we all have the demands that we have put on us for a reason. You're in the roles that you are in. But I think to give permission, I used that word earlier. That if you're talking about these things, you have to show that it is okay and real. And I caveat that with going back to the personal brand, right?
Mm.
Somebody can't take off every Friday and a long weekend if they're not hitting their goals and getting their work done. But if you are, exceeding and succeeding in your role, your responsibilities, and what you have to do to give a little bit of permission, don't miss your kids' events. Don't miss that family trip that you have put off or the friend that you need to go visit or whatever it is. And whatever decision you make, you do it with no guilt. As long as you're living your personal brand, I think that's something that I am, again, working on, that I would feel guilty if I, didn't show up at a work event. And I would feel guilty if I didn't show up at my, son's first band concert. And I would feel guilty. And that again goes back to this wasted energy of no one's worrying about it but you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
No, I love
I
that.
go on and on about those things, but
We
could
all
too.
yeah, could. We all could as well.
No, but just love the whole, like we talked about earlier, just the personal brand and everybody's individual journey and just the holistic part of it, which I think has gotten more attention now than ever, which I think is great. The conversation is just so different and so open, and that it's becoming, part of corporate culture and how people grow and the balance between the personal and the work and what that looks like, and that they're both equally important
Mhm.
and that's recognizable, and I think that I think it's an exciting time. I do. It's great how everybody has been embracing the conversation and taking it forward.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I took from hearing Stephanie speak originally was to give yourself permission, and I think all of us need to be better at that and to let the guilt go and to realize that, um, we work hard, but sometimes we need to be allowed to play hard and to also just relax and get quiet and
Mhm.
have some me time. So, I think it's something that we can all learn from. And as Dr. Romaine, we all spoke about that we hope that other corporations learn from as well and start to instill these types of
Yep.
opportunities across their organizations. Stephanie, any final thoughts before we let you get back to your crazy day?
the final thought that I would add, as I both just heard you close, is to do it all without worrying what other people think about you. That's another big thing. Is it's like going self in me looked back and said, "Why was I always worried?" I knew what my personal brand was, but not to worry so much about what others think about you. It's sort of be proud, but otherwise, I just appreciate the time to talk. Again, I wish I could spend all day chatting with you.
We wish
No, we would too. We us too.
too. Well, hopefully we'll see you again soon at one of the events with Women Leading Travel or others. But thank you so much for the time. We
Yeah.
appreciate it very much. And for everybody that's watched, we hope you took something amazing away from this and set some beautiful intentions for yourself. Thanks for joining us on Color Bar, and we'll see you soon.